Cisco Live with Orange Business Services. And today we are going to kick it off with a guest, Jose Bogarin from Altus Consulting down in Costa Rica. And we're going to be talking about API integrations, Webex Teams. And Jose, I'm going to let you do a better intro than that. What else are we going to talk about?
No, it's basically that. I mean, it's talking about how with APIs and programmability, you can basically scale your infrastructure and scale your operations to do more stuff. And honestly, we all know that right now budgets are, getting cut. You want your teams always to do more stuff, more innovation, but you're not getting that right budget for that stuff. So you definitely need to increase how you manage your infrastructure, make it more programmable, and obviously make it so that the different customers, the different teams in your organizations can collaborate more with that infrastructure. So it's APIs, it's Webex Teams, it's Webex devices. It's how you can use that technology, that programmability, also in the collaboration space.
And what Orange is looking at today is seeing a lot of organizations where they don't even know what they have or what they could do, right? So how do I figure out how am I going to use the programmability? How am I going to figure out what it is that I can actually do? So Orange has developed something we call Open Labs. And Open Labs, we do it on our SD-WAN section, but we're also doing it on our collaboration platform. And the idea of the SD-WAN and the Open Labs for collaboration is that we sit down with you and say, well, what do you have available to you? On the pre-sale side, I'll come in, I'll brainstorm with you, I'll talk to some of your business units and say, what kinds of things are you actually working with? And let me engage with you and show you what kinds of things it could possibly do. And then once we kind of discover some of that, we would go to a second level. At that second level, it would be more of an engagement, and we would bring in Jose and actually prototype that out. So we're going to talk a little bit about a couple of the prototypes that we've done before for customers in the past. We've got one to demo for you here. But that's the idea, is that a lot of the organizations don't even know, how do we get moving on this? I don't have time to discover this myself. I don't have time to go out to HR and to marketing and find out how we can enable them better, because I'm rolling stuff out, and that's my job. I got to get this out, and I got to get that out, and I can't enable it anymore. Yeah. So, Jose, in the last year, what has been one of your more favorite projects that you've done for a customer where they discovered something and you were able to get it out for them?
Yeah, absolutely. So one of the challenges that we face is for a disaster recovery procedure, they need to have a better way to actually document the whole process and get the information. Then after they ended the whole disaster recovery process, they needed to get that information to a system where they can start securely, just to check how their procedure is increasing or improving through the different stages, right? So what we did is, using Webex Teams, we created a space for them where they can basically share and collaborate during the whole disaster recovery process. And then after that, they could basically jump into that specific space or to the development that we did together and download that whole record and start that record someplace safe. So later, in let's say 3 months, 6 months, where they're reviewing their disaster recovery process, they don't have to go and look for emails of what they did. They don't have to go and say, check it on paper or stuff like that. They can go to that specific file that we generated for them, and they can see the whole process.
So if you had disaster recovery and you had Mary and Bob and Sue and Joe, right, and Sue loaded the wrong file, and everybody worked off that wrong file, but they didn't realize it till they were done with the disaster recovery. When they were doing the auditing process, they could go back and see exactly at what time Sue loaded the file, what the file was, and what was said right before and right after, the whole thread. And you can say, oh, we passed the disaster recovery, but we did it off fake information or incorrect information, and now we see this in the audit trail. Before, they were using Skype for Business. And with Skype for Business, essentially what they were doing was they were saying select all, copy, paste into notes, and then they would go and fill in what files had been transferred, and then if they had emails over here, they had to go say, then we emailed it, all that. Instead, they used Webex Teams. They kept the whole thing inside Teams. They did all their file transfers. They did all their checks. They had their field technicians, and they were in Webex Teams. The whole thread was right there. Jose built a great front end where all they had to do was log in, drop down, find the space, and hit export. The whole thing dumped down to a zip file. They grabbed that, put it on the SharePoint, and they were done. So at the end of 3 days of disaster recovery, it took them about 30 seconds to collect all of the conversation, all of the files, and dump it into one place. And all of that was done on a web front end, right? Integrated with the Webex back end with the APIs to make sure we could grab all the info. and we were out of there. Now, at that point, all you have to then say is where are we going to host it, right? And that's where Orange comes in. They were an Orange customer. They were on Orange Network. We had Orange Cloud. So we were able to put it securely on the inside so it wasn't exposed externally, and they could run that through. And part of that goes back to that Open Labs. I sat down with a customer, and we were brainstorming, and they came with this problem. And I said, I think we can solve this. Give me a day. I went back, and I found a way to do it. I'm not the programmer. I found a way to do it, and then I brought in the guy who can actually make it happen.
And the whole idea here is basically to save time. I mean, it's not like the customers are going to be, rated by their end users because they have the best disaster recovery process. They need to save time in IT. They need to save time in different operations to not provide the actual innovations, the actual value to the end customer. So being the best at documentation, it's not what they're looking for, right? What they're looking for is to save time, to being able to do their process, do it efficiently, save time, and then have the time to do the innovations, have the time to actually provide the value to their customers. So that's one of the examples that we did together.
So one of the other ones then that we've got for an example, this one right here is a concierge service. And what we did here, is that formatting right up on that screen there, guys? Is that looking right? We'll go over here, we'll blow that up. That's a little bit better. The trials of extended desktops. There we go, that's a little bit better. So the idea here is that you've got a concierge service, and maybe you've got multiple channels out to your different people. Maybe you've got a team that's using Webex Teams. Perhaps it's your food service staff, and you have to text message them when things happen, right? So you're a receptionist, and as a receptionist, you're tasked with creating a meeting for a bunch of folks. So we'll drop this over here and show you Betty Test. So what Betty's got to do is she's got to invite a whole bunch of people, right? So if any of you guys don't mind, I'll probably create one here and ask for some emails. And actually, Jose, would you mind being my keys? Yeah. You want to type it in for me so I can do this?
Absolutely.
Thanks. So we're just going to add a couple emails. Does anybody have a simple email that they give us? Because it's actually going to send something out, and you can see what the thing is. Anybody want to volunteer? No volunteers. Nobody wants to give me their email address. That's okay. We can show it. Go ahead and put mine up there. You can put in Jose, put in Joshua. Registration email. So registration dot, go back one. Oh. Second one there, the demo together register. So when we invite this email address, that's going to invoke the bot. Jose is just going to make up a meeting, and as soon as he sends the invite, I as the user and Jose as the user are going to get emails, regular old Outlook emails that say the invite. We're going to get a follow-up email. Follow-up email is going to have a QR code in it. So the QR code, just like when you guys showed up here at registration, right? When you got here, you had a QR code, you scanned in, they printed your badge. That's a great system, and they got a third party that's doing all of that. But what this allows you to do is when it sends that email out, it's also going to take Betty and throw her into a bot space. So now when you guys show up and you scan in, you walk up, you scan in, Betty gets alerted, right? Jason just showed up. Nicholas just showed up. You could tie whatever you need to that. Like maybe you need to print out Jason and Nicholas a badge. Maybe you're having a lunch and you got to let the concierge people know that Jason is gluten-free. He actually showed up, so let's make sure we have a gluten-free lunch, right? So all these things are just automated along the bot, and it's all being invoked by reception. Go ahead and send that one out. And without any email volunteers, what we'll do is we'll just pass around my phone and they can see what the QR code looks like. So the idea there is that you're then going to get the bot, you're going to be able to scan that in, and when the scan happens, you get the access. Maybe it's the security access, right? Maybe you've got the guy coming up and saying, we are or not going to allow this guy, or Jason got revoked, right? Maybe Jason got a security check, and you realize later that Jason doesn't get to come to the event. So when he scans in, he would be revoked. So what we'll do here is we'll check this email. Hopefully this went through, and we don't have any other technical errors. There we go. Thank you. So here we got the front desk meeting information. Load, load, load. There we go. You can just scroll through that one. So this is the QR code, right? And as you scroll through it, if you could bring up the, pass over the front desk screen so you can see what that portion of it looks like. You got it there on the tab. So we walk up with the QR code, right? we're going to fake the QR scan right here. Jose, if you'll let me scan you.
Yep.
So Jose walks up to security. He gets scanned in. This is the part we didn't test, was the feedback, didn't we? Yeah. So here's the front door terminal. So this would be essentially where your terminal is. You're scanning into that, right? So you have the QR code scanner into there. We paste in his QR code information. So now there's the QR code info that's gone in there. And then we say go. And then Jose's granted access in. And then whatever automation we want beyond that. So maybe that automation is printing out the sticker, maybe it's alerting different people. And then on top of that, then what we're gonna have is, this is where we pull up the Teams room. I realize now that I've got it on my actual account. So this is the Teams room, showing me that Jose has actually arrived on site. And as you can see, go ahead and pass that around. As you can see, as you scroll through that, that's everybody else that we've done the demo with, right? So when you scroll down, you just get a continuous list of everybody who's shown up for your meeting. And you set that up for each individual admin assistant or each individual VP, whoever's doing the meeting, you get that loaded through. This is a very simple demonstration of the API code, right? And the API front end.
Yeah,
so,
and we can do other stuff. For example, let's say you have an enterprise network with Wi-Fi. So if you need to provide guest Wi-Fi access, you can basically send some information about, hey, now that you're here in the office, we can send you the information about the guest Wi-Fi with your user, with your email, so it's secure, but also it allows to more quickly have that information. Not getting to the meeting and trying to say, hey, do you have Wi-Fi access? And then spend like 5 to 10 minutes trying to get that Wi-Fi access and losing the valuable time that we have during the meeting. Or even if you don't want to do that, if you're, for example, getting to a meeting where you have some of the room key devices, or let's say one of the touch stands, we could probably build a macro there so you can go ahead and say, hey, I need Wi-Fi guest access. So right from the touch stand, you can go ahead and ask for that Wi-Fi access. And like that, in a couple of minutes, just getting that access, not trying to call to the service desk or help desk. Again, spend 5 to 10 minutes of valuable time for them and for you. And losing time that you really need in that meeting. So it's those use cases, the ability to actually use the infrastructure to our benefit, either from Webex Teams or from the Webex devices that we have from the touch stands. It's how we can leverage that collaboration infrastructure to make it not easier just in the meeting, but also make it the pre-meeting experience also easy.
And last year we demoed a little bit with the RoomKit series and the DX series, that idea of the help desk. I'll step out over here. How's that? That's better. So the idea of the help desk, I'll just keep walking back this way. So the help desk part, you could actually have a macro right on there. So if there's something wrong on here with the Touch 10 or the DX, you just hit a button that says help, and that automates another Webex Teams bot where somebody is out there helping. They get the device name, they get the device IP, and you log it through the touch screen saying what your problem is, do you need a callback, any of that. They can call the device right back, or if it's an actual problem with the device or something else, they engage you in whatever method that you want. These are the kinds of automation things that Teams, the RoomKits, the API development are really enabling, that it's hard to do. It's hard to do in your project of rolling this stuff out, to think to yourself, where do I automate this? Where do I make my life easier? Because you've already got a job to do. You've got to get all this stuff out. You got to teach everybody how to use things, much less figure out how to actually automate it. But that's the value you're missing out on, and that's the value that Orth wants to help you out with our Open Labs project. For listening. So you've all got a ticket. So please come back at about 3:30. We've got another session at 12:30, and that one's going to be on SD-WAN. We've got a session at 3 o'clock on analytics, and then after the analytics session is when we give away the headset. So please come back at the end of the day. Plenty of time to get to the concert. Thanks, guys.